The Gallagher Shots podcast is sponsored by Tyre Spot, the Northeast's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel and podcast. As you can see, Beyond the Lines is back. Your chance to hear straight from the opposition and their opinion about the upcoming fixture. This week, we are joined by Wolfie, representative from Nottingham Forest. Welcome along, Wolfie.
How you doing, mate? Thank you for having me on.
No problem whatsoever, mate. We're going to dive straight into it because I think we're both quite excited and a little bit nervous about this upcoming fixture, as well as Newcastle make the trip to the famous City Ground. And let's do it, mate, because before we started recording, I said that there's quite a few similarities between Newcastle and Nottingham Forest, and that's not to mention the players that are now involved with Forest that have left Newcastle United, but we'll get to the meat of that soon enough, because I'm quite intrigued to hear your opinion about a couple of ex-Newcastle United players. Very interested with Anderson, because it still breaks my heart a little bit with Anderson. But I just want to talk about your season so far, mate. I think from the outside in, everybody's a little bit shocked to see the current position in Nottingham Forest, and I would imagine you're probably a little bit shocked as well.
Well, you know, I am a deluded fan, so I like to always be optimistic at the start of the season. I predicted would finish 8th, so even by my... Probably, I don't know of anyone who predicted as high as me for Forest this season, but even by that standard, to be 3rd right now, quarter of the way through the season, is absolutely fantastic, mate. And I could see the signs of it in pre-season. That's why I was feeling quite optimistic. The way Nuno had just got everything in line, got rid of a lot of the dead wood, trimmed down the squad, and it's just started well. And honestly, as stupid as it sounds, I think we should have more points, because we conceded a late goal to Bournemouth in the opening game of the season. Wolves scored a worldie against us to equalise. One of their 2 points or whatever they've got this season has come from us. So, you know, I think there's like 4, maybe 5 points extra we could have had, but that's just me being greedy. I'm more than happy with where things are, but it's just a sign of how well Forest are doing this season, mate.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I'm personally shocked, but not shocked as in like the bad side of a shockness. I'm like
surprised,
pleasantly surprised by it. And like I said, I think that there is a soft spot from myself, not every single Newcastle United fan, but from myself, Nottingham Forest this season, because of, like I said, the players that are there now. Everybody wanting a couple of the lads to do fantastic. But we'll get on to those lads in just a second. And we've already faced each other this season in the cup, as entertaining as always as it comes to the last handful of Newcastle United and Forest fixtures. But yeah, we did meet each other in the second round, I believe it was, in the Carabao Cup, which ended 1-1. Went to penalties eventually, and we saw some stinkers penalties from both sides. Joe Linton missed one of ours. Then I'm not sure. Remind us, who was it that missed yours?
Taiwo Awoniyi missed the decisive one, and I think Sangare was the other one. But as I said, when you lose penalties, they don't count, mate. So I see that as the game went as a draw. It's a draw.
So it was a strange one from Forest, that fixture, because I think there was more than a handful of changes going into that game. I think he's made 9 or 10 changes, I believe, going into that game. And whereas Newcastle, yes, when it comes to cup games, there's a handful of changes, but not a huge amount. We've still got what you class as your senior players and your reserve players coming in. And the big thing about that fixture was Tonali returning as well for Newcastle after his suspension for betting. So that was the whole bells and whistles that came along with that fixture. And it was a great stop from Newcastle, where Willock scores. I think it's like the first minute. It's ridiculous how quick we score. But if I remember right, the game wasn't a fantastic one to watch. Far from it. But like I said, previous fixtures that we've looked at, if we look at last season, or the reverse fixture to this one that's coming up, you absolutely battered us on Boxing Day. absolutely battered with. And I think that was at the moment where we looked at the likes of Forest and thought, Jesus, they've turned a corner a little bit at that point last season. And you had Chris Wood, like I mentioned, ex-Newcastle United player, that never really did it for Newcastle. But I think that was because of possibly the service that he was getting as well in the team. But I think he bangs in a hat-trick last season against Newcastle. And what's it been like from yourselves as a Forest fan, looking at Chris Wood now compared to what he did for Newcastle?
Well, when we signed him, I wasn't that happy with it because it was a 4 million loan fee and then a 15 mil trigger after he played like 3 games, which to me just said they were pushing it into the next PSR cycle. And he was atrocious to start with. One of the worst strikers I'd seen in years. He just looked like he was rooted to the ground, couldn't jump, couldn't score, couldn't do anything. And to be honest, into the start of the next season, where we officially signed him, he didn't start. He scored against Sheffield United, I think it was, and it was the other team that got relegated. Sheffield United, Burnley, I think he scored as well. Then there was nothing. It wasn't until Nuno came in. And I remember just before Nuno came in, I was looking at Nuno's system and how he played at Wolves with Jimenez, not the fastest striker, but quite strong and what have you. And I was thinking to myself, you know what, Wood would probably suit a Nuno's style and system more so than Taiwo, who at the time came injured. And honestly, as soon as Nuno came in, it was just a different beast. I think you were our second game under Nuno. And that second half, I mean, he just destroyed you. He really did. I've never seen him go around the keeper, dink the ball over the keeper, full array of goals he had.
It was a bit of everything, wasn't it?
It's a bit of everything. It was almost the perfect hat trick. And he's just gone from strength to strength. I've completely changed my mind on him. He's what, the second highest goal scorer right now in the league. I think he scored in 3 or 4 in a row, 8 goals this season already. He's absolutely on fire. We're calling him Cristiano Woodinho now. He's gone that good. So, yeah, I've been very happy with him, and long may it continue. Another hat trick this weekend would be absolutely perfect, mate.
Definitely not, mate. The thing with Wood, like I said, I think you have to play to his strengths. I think everybody knows that. There's no point having a target man up top where you're going to play the ball to his feet constantly. You need somebody that's going to hold the ball up. And do you know what is? For a much stick that he did get at Newcastle, sometimes we'll look back at that and think maybe he didn't get enough time. And I think we paid 20 million or something ridiculous like that. It was at the time. And we didn't obviously get that return from him when it comes to goals on the field. But honestly, the turnaround from him, I'm looking from the outside in, and we have Callum Wilson who can't even get fit. At this moment in time, Eddie Howe is saying that he doesn't have an injury, just his body doesn't feel right, which is alarm bells to me. And you're thinking, maybe if we had have just hung on to Chris Wood, but in hindsight, it's a beautiful thing. I know it's a beautiful thing as a football fan. But just go back to last season. Yes, you got the victory at St James's Park, but earlier in the season, it was the reverse way. It was a 3-2 victory in Newcastle. So this fixture delivers goals.
Mate. We should have had a penalty. We should have had a penalty.
Yeah. Well, this happens with every clubs, mate. Every time we come up against clubs, there's always another penalty. But do you know what it is? I think it's hard to disagree. It really is. And I think last season, were you on the end of a few of those decisions where I know Wolves had a few of them, but for us was another one where it was quite controversial, some of the circumstances when it comes to VAR and decisions going your way.
It was ridiculous. I think the one that most highlighted is the one against Everton, where Forest sent out that infamous tweet accusing Stuart Atwell indirectly of being a Luton fan. And that, we were frustrated because there were 3 blatant penalties against Everton.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think most people would say at least 1 or 2 of those were definite penalties. And they just weren't being given. And this was happening to us week in, week out. I remember Nico Williams nearly had his ankle broken against Brighton. It got reviewed. The guy went over the top of the ball. Nothing doing. It was building up constantly to Forest. And I'll say we're still getting a few this season. Not as bad as last season. But the key thing is that when they're happening, we're winning games. And, they're not impacting the results. Whereas last season, they were. So, but then again, Forest didn't vote to disband VAR when Wolves put the motion through. So How badly do they feel, aggrieved by it? You'd have to ask yourself. I think Wolves are the only club in that vote to do it. I'm not against VAR, mate. I don't mind it. My problem isn't VAR, it's the people operating it are idiots. I think we have some of the worst officials in the world. I really do. I don't know where they get them from. I don't know how Howard Webb is still in a job. But it's a joke, mate. It's a joke.
I agree with you to a certain extent. The VR, I'm not a huge fan of it, and I know why it's there. And if delivered correctly, yes, I think everybody won't be on board with it.
Yeah.
But you're correct what you're saying about the referees. I think the standard of refereeing, even this season, what with 10 games in, and it's been appalling. I'm not sure what it's been like for your games, but referees, and it was. I think it might be the Wolves manager not so long ago saying that maybe subconsciously these referees give decisions to the bigger clubs without realizing. I agree with it. I agree with
I've
it.
agreed with it for 20 odd years, mate. You'd always see as a kid growing up under the Fergie era, you'd always see Man U get those, decisions and what have you. So I think there is definite conscious or unconscious bias when it comes to the referees, depending what stadium they're in and what have you. But my philosophy on it is if you're winning, the ref can't screw you out that game. So just get it done on the pitch.
It's easier to take when you're picking up points as well, and you obviously the position which you are in at the moment, third in the Premier League. It's easier to take those incorrect decisions because they're not necessarily affecting at this moment in time. But you always feel it's going to turn at some point, and you may start dropping points because of these decisions. Which it is a vicious circle, and when we've been through it as well, it is absolutely honking sometimes. I want to move on to another ex-Newcastle United player. Before we get on to Anderson, you have Matt Sells in goal. Matt Sells, as a Forest fan, I listened back to one of the videos which you used not so long ago, a handful of months ago, where you're having a discussion if Sells should remain number one in between the sticks. He's just been up for Player of the Month, and do you know what it is? As shocked and pleasantly surprised I was to see Forest and maintain that third position in the league, I'm even more shocked to see Sells challenging for Player of the Month, because when he was at Newcastle, never ever had any sort of confidence in him. Really didn't. Always a worry. I think he only made 9 appearances for us in the end before Caldolo, once again, ex-Forest player, came in and keeps his spot. What are your thoughts on him now? Is he actually performing that well this season?
The thing with Sells, he's never been bad. He's just never been, how do I say it, flamboyant, or what have you. He just does his job. I like a keeper with a bit of personality. We brought in this 6'9" giant from Brazil called Carlos Miguel, who looks a really good keeper as well. But we've been struggling in this keeper position for a while. As you know, we sold you a certain Vlachodimos. So thank you for the money for him, and I'm sure he doesn't.
We're going to get onto that.
Yeah. So we've had problems with this keeper. Matt Turner was one of the worst keepers I've seen in years. And then Sells came in at the end of in the January window last season. And he was just steady Eddie, is the best way I can describe him. I can't fault him. There's probably 3 mistakes he's made in his whole time at Forest. He's consistent but boring. But over the last 3 months, he's pulled a few worldies out. I think Chelsea is the game that springs to mind for me, where he made some cracking saves against Parma. And he's just grown in stature and confidence. I'm really happy with him right now. But when I've criticized him, it's not from a position of I think he's rubbish. It's just I think he's sufficient, and there are better keepers out there. Forest have been linked to loads of keepers in the previous transfer window, so Nuno must have been thinking along the same lines. You just can't fault him, mate. He's conceded the second least goals in the Premier League at the moment. He's doing a fantastic job. I think a lot of credit has to go to Nuno. Nuno himself was an ex-goalkeeper. He saw something in him. He's got a real good tune out of him. The other thing I'd say, he's a little on the old side. I think he's about 32, 33, but keepers tend to go on for a lot longer, don't they? I mean, we had Navas when he was 37 a couple of years ago, so they got plenty of legs in them. But yeah, he's done really well, especially this season.
Yeah, because we're talking about goalkeepers, we're going to have to talk about Vlachodimos. So we all know the reason behind it. We all know it's a bit of a handshake between Newcastle and Forest when it comes to PSR, because we're both struggling at that point, and there's a bit of a turn to when it comes to players. So Vlachodimos comes one way, so we scratch your back. You got the better side of this, where Anderson goes in the other direction, and Anderson, as a Newcastle fan, we loved him. We just didn't really see enough of him. The chances that he did get was going into the season when we finished fourth. Then he picks up an injury not long after that, and you're thinking, we're hoping to see more of you. And these were the games that you were going to get, the likes of the cup games, the Champions League games.
Yeah,
when the squad rotation was coming, he picked up a back injury, if I remember right, which he missed a fair chunk of the season. But when he did feature, we've always been impressed with Anderson, unbelievably. And his nickname up here, Jody Maradona, speaks for itself.
Maradona,
yeah, speaks for itself. And so I know what your opinion is going to be on him, because he is a special talent. He really is, Anderson. Were you surprised of how good he is?
Not too much, because I've got quite a few Newcastle mates, and as soon as I knew how pissed they were that we were getting him, I was like, okay, what's going on here? Then again, I still held my judgment, because they all told me that Shelby would do a great job for us when we brought him for you. Yeah, and we all know
You're
how
sport of the wrong ones.
Yeah, exactly. So, and in terms of the actual deal itself, I liked it because I see us as similar clubs in terms of, history, in terms of stature. Newcastle Forest are in the Premier League. Me growing up, Sheffield Wednesday, those kind of clubs, I think they're proper clubs. And I like the deal, not in terms of who got what and what. The fact that we were sticking two fingers up to the Premier League and saying, well, you want to hold us down, you've got all your money. We got Marinakis who wants to spend money. And we're like, oh, we found a loophole. It's okay for Chelsea to sell themselves their own hotels. So let's get a piece of this pie. But in terms of the actual player deal, we got the better one. Anderson's been phenomenal since he's come in. The only thing I'd say about him is I still don't know what his best position is. He's played a lot of games at 8. He's played on the left wing, and while Morgan Gibbs-White was injured for 2 weeks, he played in the 10. And I think he's been brilliant in the 8 and the 10. I don't think as much so on the left wing, which I know he played a lot of games. Well, the games he did was out there. I just don't think he's quite got the pace to be a winger, and we've got Callum Hudson-Odoi there. But in the 8, he's brilliant, and in the 10, he's fantastic. And I just don't know if he should be challenging Morgan Gibbs-White for that 10, or he should be holding the 8 position down. He's made it a really good headache for Nuno. And we saw in the game we just won, who did we beat? West Ham. Morgan Gibbs-White was back, and they both had a slight knock. So he played 60 minutes of Morgan Gibbs-White in the 10, and then he tagged in Elliot Anderson for the last 30-odd minutes, and he created 2 goals. The only negative I have on him is he hasn't scored yet. He's created some chances, and I don't think he scored for you guys apart from a friendly against Brighton, if I remember rightly.
I think he was the only what you class as a senior player last season not to get a goal. Everybody else got one apart from Anderson.
Yeah, but I somehow see that as a positive as well, because I think if he gets that goal, that's just gonna take that weight off his shoulder. We're gonna see him kick on to be even better. It's his dribbling and his ball control that stands out to me, and his work rate and work ethic. I mean, I could talk about him all day, but I know it's a sore subject for the Geordies. So I respect it.
Do you know what it is? I think as a Newcastle fan, I think it's because we were so blessed at that moment in time with the likes of options in that midfield position. Obviously, we've got Bruno Joelinton, Tonali had coming back, Joe Willock that can play in that role. Lewis Miley came through the ranks and performed really well. And you're thinking, that's probably why Newcastle have had to give in to the restrictions of PSR and say, we're going to have to make some money here, and a local lad, English lad, of course, it's going to bring that value up a little bit. And honestly, when it happened, I think everybody was shocked and a little bit heartbroken as well, because as a football fan, you always want a local lad to do well. And it was just a shame that because of the restrictions, we're forced to sell somebody like him to get more money into the club. And it was
12 million,
heartbreaking.
12 million's cheap for him, though, because you paid 22 for Vlachodimos, I think it was, and we paid between 12 and 15 for Anderson. Yes, it went
It's a
down as
steal.
35 mil. It's an absolute bargain, man. It's one of the deals of the summer for me. It really is. But you
It's
got
100% a
Vlachodimos
steal.
in return, mate. So, you know.
So we do have Vlachodimos, who is probably never ever going to make a Newcastle United appearance. Which you scratch your head some more at that one. You think we spent so much money, and once again we know why, but you're thinking surely there could have been something else.
Yeah, at least you could have maybe got a player that maybe could have been a squad player or something like that, you know. So it's a bit of weird, but we had to get rid of our keepers. Him and Matt Turner, they had to go.
What is he like, Vlachodimos? Because I don't think we are ever going to see him unless we go through a season where we get injuries like we did a couple of years back, where you had like sort of Pope was injured, Dubravka went and signed for a loan for Man United, so he couldn't play the cup game afterwards, and we were left with Karius, who featured a couple of games that season, who did all right for a third choice keeper. But what is Vlachodimos like? Is he that bad?
No, he's not that bad. I think Matt Turner's worse than him. The problem most people were saying about him, the biggest criticism is he just didn't make a save. You know, it was
That's a big criticism for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, and he shot that one at him, kind of just went in. He was never really in the correct position or what have you. I think he's been treated a little harshly because he didn't really get a run in the Forest team at all. I think he was brought in to be the first choice keeper, but the Matt Turner deal got done before him. Steve Cooper started Turner and just stuck with him for a good few games until he really had to drop him. And then when he came into the Forest team, he wasn't playing in a team that's playing now, you know, free flowing, scoring goals, solid defense. So he never got a chance to shine. But in the limited games we saw of him, you just knew he wasn't cut out for the Premier League. You know, he does well on an international level for Greece, but he's just not cut out for it, I don't think. It'd be okay in a cup game. If you needed him in a cup game or something, it'd be okay.
Well, we've got about 24,000 goalkeepers at the club at the moment, so I don't think there's any rush to throw him in any cup games. And do you know what it is? I get why goalkeepers get a run in the cup games, but I always say if your starting goalkeeper is fit, put him in goal in the cup games.
I like they run around like the rest of the players.
Exactly, mate. And I think Nick Pope needs that game time. Obviously, he had the injury last season with his shoulder, so I think it works well playing him in the cup games as well to get that confidence back up in his shoulder as well. Let's go to the upcoming game then. I want to get your opinion on this, and hopefully it's not giving too much away. But from a Newcastle, let's say if you're a Newcastle United's coaching team, okay, what are the areas that we need to look out for?
What, from the Newcastle team or the Forest? Oh,
from
the Forest. At the moment, it's our defense. Our defense is rock solid. And I've said this at the start of the season. Again, I got laughed at, but I said we have the best centre-back pairing in the league in Murillo and Milenkovic. Murillo is just, if we keep him beyond this summer, I'll be shocked. I can see him going to Real Madrid, Barcelona, something. He's already been linked with them in the summer. He's been linked to Liverpool to replace Van Dijk. Pretty much every club is lining up for him. He can pick the ball up from the back. He can dribble his way through the whole team. He's got pace. He's got power. Probably slightly weak at heading, but he's improved on that. But the thing is, now Milenkovic has come in, who is just like, he reminds me of Vidic from the old Man U teams, that kind of player. He's strong, he's calm. And the biggest compliment I can pay him is you just don't notice him. Because unlike Murillo, who will do a flamboyant slide tackle or chase back 20 yards and beat the attacker for pace, Milenkovic is always in the right place at the right time. His football IQ is through the roof. He's one of the highest in aerial duels. And those two have just created this foundation. You put alongside him Moreno, who's done really well. He's in on loan from Aston Villa on the left side, and then Ola Aina on the right side. And he's just brilliant. He's my favorite player. He's really energetic. He's got 2 good feet. He can play right side, left side. He can even play on the wing in midfield. And that's the foundation that Nuno started in. And then what he then allows is when we win the ball back, we kind of play a mid-block, but very quick on the transition. So you'll release the likes of Hudson-Odoi on the left wing, or potentially Elanga if he plays on the right wing, or Jota Silva. And then Morgan Gibbs-White is in there pulling the strings, and then Cristiano Ronaldo is doing what he's doing. So Forest are very good right now at the transition. And it's so quick, the counter-attack. And especially if we get, the space in behind your defensive line where we can exploit it with our pace, as we did, as you saw at St. James's Park. That was very similar, but it's improved a lot since then. But yeah, that's how Forest are playing. And right now, what's hilarious is our two starters in the 6 and the 8 have both been injured since the start of the season, in terms of Sangare and Danilo. And the players coming in like Ryan Yates, who will get under the skin of your players. He's just one of those players, local boy. Dominguez is doing a fantastic job, and Elliot Anderson. It's very well balanced right now. And the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, shut up, man. It's going to fall apart if you keep picking up. You're going to jinx it. But honestly, when Forest are playing rubbish, I'm the first to say they're terrible. But right now, don't feel like there's an outstanding weakness. And if there is, it's covered by the rest of the team as well. It's very well balanced right now, mate.
Having said that, how confident are you going into? Like I said at the start of this one, I think we're both excited but a bit nervous as well going into this fixture, because it's a huge fixture. It really is. Newcastle, obviously, I think we're only 3 points away from Forest at the moment. And recent games that were played, the likes of Brighton and Everton, where you think, right, you need to get points. Yeah, they've just got them and just moved a little bit away. Same with Chelsea as well. So this is one where really Newcastle need a result to try and grasp it and bring it a little bit closer. But like you said, Forest playing unbelievable football at the moment. And Chris Wood on fire and scoring almost every single game, with our defence as being questionable at times this season. So you must be pretty confident that you can at least get some points out of this one.
I don't know. Look, Newcastle one, I've got so much time and respect for Newcastle as a club and a fan base. And what's bugging me about Newcastle this season is the consistency. Every time you've had a good result, you then flop one. Like when you drew with Man City, and then a game or two later, you couldn't beat Everton.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of stop-start for Newcastle this season. Now you're coming off the back of a brilliant performance against Arsenal. I got sick of hearing everyone talking about that game, saying how bad Arsenal were, rather than how well Newcastle played and how your left back Hall pocketed Saka the whole game for me, And that's what frustrates me. And that actually gives me more respect for Newcastle, because they're still, they're seen in that point. They're not given the respect they should be, So in terms of the game itself, I am really worried about this game, just because I'm always glass half full. And I've been worried about the Palace game. I was worried about the Leicester game. I was worried about the West Ham game. But confidently worried is the way. I just worry that at some point, someone's going to figure out how to play against this Nuno tactic. We could come unstuck. But I feel that Newcastle play better when a team comes onto them.
Yeah.
Like we saw with Arsenal, I felt your shape was brilliant against them. And I don't think you'll get that with Forest. I just not sure how this one's going to play out. I don't think either team too much will want to play, the attacking, push everyone forward thing. I think it's going to end up a draw, if I'm being honest with you. And I'll probably take a draw right now. I don't think it'll be high scoring. Unless you want to put Dan Burns back at left back for us, that would be fantastic, and we'll rip you apart again. I can see Hall playing there, and I think Livamento's been really good as well at right back. It feels like you're starting to get your balance, and I think this is a pivotal game for you from your perspective. That if you can get this, technically you've won 2 on the bounce with the win in the cup.
Yeah.
Then that whole stop-start thing that I feel you've had across the season so far starts to turn into a streak. Confidence will build and you can move forward. And it's the same for us. We need to go into this game ideally winning it so we can continue that momentum. If we win this, we go into the international break guaranteed third. It's huge stakes for Forest here as well. People, are they going to start taking us seriously? People have gone from predicting us into a relegation battle, ignoring the fact they said it, say, yeah, we think they'll be safe or maybe top 10. Now some people talking about Europe. Who knows? Who knows what the limit is, So it's a big, big game. I just feel in these type of games, it's going to end up in a draw, mate.
Do you know what it is? I agree to a certain extent. I think given the choice right now, I think we'll probably both would take a draw because a lot is on the line. So I think we probably would snap your hand off for a draw at the moment. And like you said, to go into that international break, not on the back of defeat is always a positive. It
Huge,
really
yeah.
is. It's huge, that international break. So I'm with you. I think it will be a draw, but I'm going to go for, as always, high scoring. I think it'll be 2-2.
Yeah. I'm thinking 0-0. I haven't predicted a single 0-0 this season, but there's just I think both defenses will be, if Eddie Howe picks the right defense for you, I think both defenses will be quite solid, and I think it'll be an entertaining game. But I'm nervous about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I feel 0-0. We're not conceding many. I don't think you'll concede too many either. If someone's going to win it, it will be a 1-0 either way. Now that I've said that, who knows, maybe a 4-4.
I know. Well, we'll leave it at that. We're both in agreement. We're both taking a draw at this point. Then this can't be clipped, and nobody can take the piss out of it either.
Exactly.
Thanks, Wolfie. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on there, and hopefully everybody else watching has obviously appreciated you giving up your time as well. And it's always good getting the insight from a fan of the opposition. It really is, because we can sit here and talk about football as much as we want, but when it comes to somebody else's team, what better way to hear it than from the horse's mouth, mate? So thanks very much, mate.
No, my pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thanks everybody who has been watching us as well. Don't forget to like the video, become a subscriber if you can do so. If you listen to the audio as well, as always, just give us a 5-star rating and leave a little review on that as well. Thanks everybody. See you next time.